evening. This is a meeting of the Township Committee, February 4th, 2013. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Aspect Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Tour Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk on January 11, 2013. Committeeman Fiore. Here. Committeeman Massell. Here. Deputy Mayor Murray. Here. Committeeman San Marino. Here. Mayor Sharpenberger. Here. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms and way of life. Thank you. Our first item on tonight's agenda, we have Resolution 13-78, a resolution authorizing payment of bills for February 4th, 2013.
Move for adoption.
Second. Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman San Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-78. Our next resolution on tonight's agenda, we have 13-79, resolution authorizing a temporary emergency for the 2013 municipal budget.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman San Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-79. Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have Resolution 13-80, a resolution authorizing upgrade of proprietary software for patrol cars.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman San Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-80. Our next resolution, 13-81, a resolution authorizing appointment to volunteer court.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman San Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-81. Our next resolution on tonight's agenda, we have 13-82, a resolution authorizing award of contract to vendors with state contract for Police Patriot 911 system maintenance.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman San Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-82. Agenda items for February 19th. We'll have approval of minutes for December 3rd, 2013 workshop meeting, of January 6th, 2013 reorganization meeting, the January 22nd regular and executive meetings, 2013. We'll have a public hearing for 2013-3082.
On that issue, it's very possible that because the governor took the action that he did almost 2 weeks ago, that we may need to amend that ordinance. So I think more than likely what we'll be doing is introducing a revised version of that on the 19th rather than having a public hearing. So actually we'll do an introduction of an amended ordinance on the 19th, and then the subsequent meeting will have a public hearing on that.
We'll have a consent agenda, which will include resolutions, bingo raffles, and volunteer firefighter applications. For tonight's discussion, we have our first item, wastewater management maps.
Good evening. Just a quick summary of this issue. The Monmouth County Planning Board has requested that the Township Committee issue a resolution in support of the county's wastewater management plan that basically determines where sewers and sewer service areas are going to be throughout the county as well as Middletown. In particular, the county and the state have tried to roll back areas that are environmentally sensitive, being sewer service areas. I've reviewed the maps. To be frank, they're kind of difficult to interpret, that the paper version is on such a large scale, and the online version is not that great for looking up information. I've highlighted to the committee a few areas that jumped out at me as not being in the sewer service area that might be of some concern, particularly the property that the county owns, Sunny Wilson Avenue, some areas in the planned development zone, near Kane's Lane area, Woodland Drive, and Lincroft, and sections of some municipal parks that are not in the sewer service areas. Whether these rise to the level of concern that we not support the overall plan, I'm not entirely sure. I want to have some more conversations with the county to see if there are any opportunities moving forward with these areas. But they are looking for resolutions for the beginning of March. So I'll try to resolve these issues in the current week before the next meeting.
Just a quick question. If we pass this resolution, does that preclude us from asking for any changes?
That's one of the questions I'm going to find out. I don't know that it precludes us, but I think it's a cumbersome process to subsequently add properties that are not included. And this has been a 3 to 4 year long process that the county has initiated. We haven't really come to any resolution until this point. There are municipalities around the county that have much larger areas and much larger dispute areas, frankly, than these small properties. But I want to make sure that we at least go on record here. We're not objecting to it. We want to put on record that these are properties that we think should be included in the sewer service.
Okay. So we could put that in a resolution, areas that we have concern.
I would think so. That they've provided us with a draft. It's not something that is so formalized that we'll be able to modify it for everybody.
It would almost be like processing, sort of point out where we think the accurate. Okay, so any slide on our engineer.
So we have hazard mitigation.
I'll just note.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Jason go into this a little bit more, but as you're aware, one of the post-storm issues that we have to deal with is at some point this state will have an allocation for hazard mitigation funds. Sounds like it's not going to be for about a year. Funds are actually available, but the application will be due soon. Initially, it was March 1st. I've heard today that there would be a further extension. I don't know if I didn't see anything official yet, but we think it's going to be extended to sometime into March, before the end of March. And as of this moment, technically it's March 1st. But there's a lot of layers to the hazard mitigation program. I'll let Jason kind of go through what we've learned so far.
The hazard mitigation program is funded by FEMA, and it's to help mitigate past and anticipated damage from floods in particular. The eligible activities include elevating residences, minor localized flood reduction projects, and purchase personal, actually, of generators and related equipment. The match requirement at the municipal level is 25% of the overall cost. Federal government would fund 75% of the cost. In the case of elevating residential homes, that match of 25% is typically passed on to the property owner where they can use money they get from their insurance company or other resources. That's not something the municipality typically takes on. And the other projects which we could pursue would be for generators at first aid squads, fire departments, schools. Typically that would be borne by those fire departments and schools. And if we wanted to pursue resources for flood reduction, it would be a municipal match that we have to raise through our municipal budget. I've been working with Ted on a couple of different options for some flood mitigation projects, but primarily the calls that I'm getting daily right now, getting up to 5 to 10 calls a day are for elevation. And we've started to generate a list of property owners that are interested in the program. The process would be that we submit a letter of interest to the County Office of Emergency Management. We were shooting for March 1st deadline. If we get a little more time, that would be great. The county will then aggregate all the applications they receive from every municipality on the county. Ocean County will do the same, so will Hudson County and Bergen County. That all then gets sent to the federal government, and they decide based on how much money has been allocated to the federal government, how much will then be passed down to the state and meted out for these different types of projects. So we really don't know how they will prioritize elevation of homes versus flood mitigation on a municipal basis or for generators for that matter. So we're trying to put together the strongest application possible. The construction official and the building department has gone through so many different properties throughout the Bayshore. I would estimate approximately 200 properties in terms of these substantially damaged. So those will likely be the targets of our letters of interest. We'll have to come up with some criteria that we'll use to be able to decide who would be the recipients of some elevation funds. If we don't get 200 people who are interested, 200 households that are interested, we may get some number that are less. We don't know how much the federal government will give us because we have a lot of competition. Just imagine throughout the entire shore region. So that's where we're at. But ultimately, with the elevation of residential properties, the match requirement would fall to the home, and the other projects will already started outreach to the fire companies, the school district, to see if they're interested in generators, and 10 national a couple of projects in Fort Lauderdale. One would be the facilitating of Hughes Creek, Compton's Creek, and Ware to mitigate some of the silt that has washed in as a result of sand and clogged up some of the creeks and has not allowed natural flow of water.
Jason, a question for you. With regard to the localized flood mitigation and the comparison to raising the homes, how do we assign a priority to one versus the other? Was it with regard to our ability to get funding faster if the application was structured a certain way, or obviously we want to try to apply the funds where the funds will help the most people quickest, right? That's pretty much the intent. So the question becomes, when you look at localized flooding mitigation as opposed to raising individual houses, how do we as a municipality prioritize one over the other? Because I've heard both.
Yeah, I would hate to think that we're going to prioritize one over the other. I think we're going to have to explain the priorities to our overall hazard mitigation plan, and the county's hazard mitigation plan, and link it to some of the activities that are in the county's hazard mitigation plan. Elevating homes is a high priority in the county's hazard mitigation plan, which is incorporated into the townships as well. I wouldn't want to be competing or really playing one against the other. We just don't know how the state and the federal government is going to prioritize one project versus another. Well, it's going to really come down to what's practical. And working with Ted, we'll have to figure out what would be a practical alternative for some of the projects that we're talking about.
Sure, I guess that's the question. At some point in time prior to today, we came to the conclusion that elevating individual homes will affect more people faster than localized flood mitigation?
Well, the localized flood mitigation is supposed to return conditions back to pre-storm conditions. It's not necessarily going to fix larger issues and resolve a problem that would have averted if Sandy had occurred if we had done something in advance of the storm. It's really bringing it to a pre-storm condition.
Okay, so it's not flood mitigation, and it's pre-storm reclamation then.
Yeah, it's more like bringing things back to the condition they were before. Okay. Not so much flood mitigation. The other thing that's important is that one of the ideas of elevation is that it has a significant effect on people's flood insurance. Whereas flood mitigation projects, even, for example, and I don't believe it would be eligible for this, but the big flood project that's been talked forever for Fort Monmouth, with a diving pump station and all that stuff, that it's a pie in the sky project that the federal government's been working on. Even that project would not remove Fort Monmouth from flood hazard areas. So in other words, people still need flood insurance. That's one of the absurdities of the program. There was a time, it was originally proposed, that project had gone forward, they were going to no longer need flood insurance. But then when FEMA post-Katrina changed their standards, that went away. So now, even if that $80 million project was built tomorrow, the people who live there still have to get flood insurance. And
based on the same maps.
Yeah.
It wouldn't change the APFEs, it wouldn't change the flood hazard elevations.
Right. And that's because the basic change that the federal government made was that unless you have a solid structured seawall, you're not considered protected from flood. Dunes don't count as flood control. There are mitigation measures to a certain degree, but they don't preclude you from mandating flood insurance in those areas.
So it doesn't help any of the homeowners, so to speak.
Not from an insurance standpoint.
Well, from an insurance standpoint, if you're going to build higher, your risk of flood is mitigated to what the pump station would do anyway. So
Yeah.
ultimately, you're throwing money down the proverbial drain.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And what we're seeing is that we've got roughly 200 households that have been considered substantially damaged, that many, if not all, will have to elevate their homes, and the coverage they're going to get through their insurance, if they are insured, is not going to be sufficient. So hazard mitigation is something.
To that question, to that point, I should say, I have one question which might turn into a two-part question. But many of the residents I'm speaking to out there are getting quotes, and they do qualify for the ICC coverage, right? Because they're over the 50% threshold, they get the letter from the township. That's all fine and good. That's a $30,000 grant for mitigation, for whatever, demo and raising. Many of the homeowners I've spoken to, you know, have looked at the cost of actually raising their house is actually more significant than building a new house with a new, you know, foundation structure, so to speak. So my question comes in for those residents who unfortunately aren't going to raise their house, okay, they're not going to live their house. If they qualify for ICC, do they also have the ability to qualify for hazard mitigation because they made the benefit analysis that it's cheaper to build higher new than to retrofit old?
For hazard mitigation, they would not qualify for building new, really for elevating.
Only elevating. So I think it's important that we get that information or that distinction out, because unfortunately the raise in some instances, those houses are 1,000 square foot, 1,200 square foot houses where the cost of elevation is actually more than the cost of modular construction.
Some homes are very inexpensive comparatively based on whatever foundation they have that's run a couple blocks versus something that's on a slab or partially on a slab. That can get into very, very difficult.
Or to move the house because they do decide, well, we're not in any B zones. Although we do have some areas of B zone.
There are a few, we have roughly 25 properties that will be considered substantially damaged that are in the B zone.
Right, which then would have to put pilings in, and the cost of moving the house off the property is actually greater than just starting a new.
We're not sure that may be something that the federal government decides is the priority for hazard mitigation.
Well, that's my question, is are those properties with those, well, we don't know that yet, if they would qualify for hazard mitigation by not lifting an existing structure and going into it.
Well, the B zone would have to be elevated, would have to go on piles, and
But that still have to be the old construction, the old elevation. They couldn't put a new structure on there if it was cheaper to do
it
so.
would qualify for this.
Right, that's okay. That's my question.
The other option for people in that situation whose house may be not valued enough to be worth raising as opposed to just demolishing the building new is that ICC money can be used for the demolition portion. It can be used for the demolition portion and raising the foundation to the required level, because that's all part of bringing your house and bringing the house into compliance. So the person in that situation could demolish, add the necessary block to their foundation using ICC, and then however they plan on funding a new house, they can do that.
Right, but usually the delta doesn't meet the cost there.
Yeah.
And the other thing to remember with this, we're going to send out a letter to homeowners to determine the age and level of interest. The money may not be dispersed for up to 2 years. So homeowners will have to decide whether they're willing to wait or whether they can that very elevation. That's a very difficult decision for homeowners that are going between hotels.
So I guess then that leads to the question that Committeeman Senator Brino asked earlier, and that while doing a mitigation pump facility, whatever the case may be, isn't going to ultimately help the homeowner with insurance or other liabilities, but if it's going to take 2 years and we wind up with very little interest of indication of interest because people don't put in for it, we all know that the state puts the money around wherever there's indication of interest. Supposedly that's the way the process is supposed to work. The question becomes, do you then go and decide to try to do one of those hazard mitigation projects like a pump station, a phase 2 of the Fort Monmouth pump station, so that even though you're not protecting individual homeowner property, you're protecting vehicles, you're protecting anything else that is damaged under a storm level condition outside of the house. So I would hope that we would think about that based on the indication of interest, because there is other property to be saved. I mean, there's sheds, pools, whatever, that are not covered under flood insurance.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason.
Next item, we have farmland lease. Stevenson tract. The storm debris disposal.
This is related to the construction and demolition debris.
Yeah, Mike, please.
This is related to the construction and demolition debris collected post-Sandy, which is currently stockpiled in 2 locations in town. We are looking to go bid, or we're going to bid for the hauling and disposal of that too. Likewise, the next item is for the hauling and disposal of the wood chips that were created by the brush. This is right by the store.
Okay. There's no way we need those wood chips or anything to.
We have almost 70,000 cubic yards, and if you go down there, it's a huge pile. We'll never.
Yeah.
We'll use what we can, but I don't like the idea of paying to dispose of it. That's the market now. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
But obviously,
There's 70,000 cubic yards of wood chips. How about appliances and storm-related debris that we picked out of the bayshore?
That's, well, the appliances, we've already taken the white goods away. Right now, we have a separate pile of construction debris, which is the sheet rock.
Do you have an estimate of how much total collection we've done thus far?
It's approximately 55,000 cubic yards. Construction and demolition debris.
Okay. Our next item, well, we did the wood chip disposal, acceptance and of recyclable materials for Class A facility.
This is the marketing and the resale of recyclables as a collective curbside. Bid that way as well.
We continue to see an increase, I think, each month.
The volume of the curbside recycling is increasing greatly.
Fantastic.
And this is the, just so you understand, everyone understands what this is. This is somewhat related to the garbage contract we did last year. It's a separate contract that we had a 5-year term on. This is so where we selected out of the options in the garbage and recycling contract for the collection that we went out for last year. This is the township designated marketplace where those materials that are gathered by the contractors retained last year are sold to on the open market based on the prices at market. And the bids will be evaluated based on a number of factors. There are certain pricing floors which we benefited from under the prior contract when prices for these different commodities were lower. Now these commodities have increased for the most part in price, I believe it's correct, Ed. So clearly it's time for this to be redone again, examined, and all these bids to be evaluated with the current market conditions taken into account.
We have the release of community development mortgage for Block 486, Lot 1. We have an AT&T bond release. Sloan Herring.
Yeah, just in the, we'll be having the tax agreement from Sloan Kettering before the committee soon. We're working out a couple final issues with the county assessor's office, which I anticipate to have completed in the next week. So we're actually supposed to have a conference call today on it, but some things came up that couldn't make it. So probably by the next meeting, we should have that agreement ready to go.
Do they have a timetable for, moving forward once the agreement is in place?
That I don't know.
Did you have site plan approval?
Yeah, they have their site plan approval. I mean, they're ready. This is really the last component to what that needs to be put in place before they move forward.
Great. Fantastic news.
Would be construction of a storage facility for mpeg4.
This is related to Lincroft Little League submitted a sketch to my office, a grade sketch for a proposed, which is basically a proposed 30-foot by 32-foot storage shed. It's a metal building. They want to construct at MTT Park at Lincroft. Currently, they use 4 old storage trailers, containers, for their equipment and their materials. They want to remove those storage trailers, clean up that area for us, and construct a storage building in between the 2 fields, between the 2 outfields.
It actually looks like a smaller footprint.
It is probably, it's likely smaller than the actual before trailers usually. And, you know, the trailers are old and that area kind of becomes cluttered and it's kind of a mess. So they're going to help us clean that up. You know, that's closer to the road, closer to the snack bar of that area, so that'll be nicer from there, I think.
They'll remove the trailers?
They're going to move the trailers, yes.
Ted, are we picking up any of the costs, which I wouldn't be opposed to, especially under the new partnerships with these leagues, with the field permits? Are we picking up any costs, just like that? Have they asked us for that in this case, or just?
They haven't actually. They're offering to construct it themselves and pay for it. I'm just doing the grading review, making sure everything's in the location and it works. It doesn't seem to be a problem at this point.
There shouldn't be much of a cost outside.
It's dry back there, right?
Yeah, it's dry. There's a lot of room. It's relatively flat.
Okay, committee members in the ring.
Changing that, just making sure we're paying attention. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The one item that I have this evening is this past Saturday, myself and the mayor and all the members of the Township Committee attended the Middletown Lions Club breakfast at the Applebee's, and it was a very, very late 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Time, but we all went. The proceeds, of course, are going directly to the Middletown Sandy Relief Fund exclusively. So we did make sure we went, and we did see many people from town there, and we want to thank the Lions Club for doing this, and of course everyone that attended as well. And that's all I have for this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee man in the South.
Well, I just, to follow Committee's and Abrinos, we were at the Lions. It was a fantastic event, and just a reminder, they have this event every year at Applebee's. I think it's usually first weekend in February. I encourage you to go. It's a great civic organization. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Committee man Fiore.
A few things, Mayor. Thank you. First is I had the pleasure of attending that same event at the Lions Club, but also an event where the whole committee attended in Port Monmouth for the Port Monmouth Firehouse, which was an event that was held, I believe, the Sunday a week ago from yesterday. And for those of you who've been to the Port Monmouth Firehouse, it is a facility right in the heart of the destruction of the superstorm. Received a tremendous amount of damage post the storm, and I know the whole back room where the volunteer firemen congregate and have their things was completely destroyed. And through the hard work of some township volunteers led by Michelle Gilbert, who's part of our volunteer corps, and I believe it was the I get these committees wrong, but the Jersey Shore Relief Fund.
Relief Fund.
Yeah, okay. Someone, thank you. Were gracious enough to rebuild the whole back area for our volunteer firemen. So it was a really nice rededication of that facility, and very thankful to all the volunteers who helped make that happen, and also to the volunteer firemen who continue to do just an exemplary job despite all of the challenges. With that said, with respect to our efforts here with the Disaster Relief Fund, which is a separate non-for-profit organization, which we just got our notification of our tax exempt status from the IRS, which took a few months. But The fund is definitely now, as we're starting to do, just an update on that, as we're starting to see the permit process begin with the direction we got from the governor and the new maps and the new elevation standards. The board will be meeting and setting criteria for what we can do, what the fund can do to help residents who lost displaced items in the rebuilding process. And we'll have an application up on the Middletown Disaster Relief website very shortly to start that process. So just an update on that. And you know what, I'll save the comments I know everybody's here for you, Mayor. So thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Murray.
Thank you. I'm just going to echo the comments of my fellow committeemen. Those events, the Lions Club pancake breakfast and the Portland on the Firehouse, the rededication of that room. They were wonderful events. They were very heartwarming. The one thing I will add to that, Mr. Mercatante and I have met with the volunteer corps. We've had our first meeting in the last week of January. It was a great meeting, very productive. And we're really trying to nail down some plans for the future and continue to operate the Croydon Home Relief Center. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a few things. I had the good fortune to go to several ribbon cuttings these past few weeks, and one of the Committeeman Fiore can tell you when he was mayor, it was one of the most pleasurable things you can do is to go to a new business in town and cut the ribbon or a groundbreaking. There's a new cardio kickboxing facility in the Anna's Kitchen strip mall, which is going to be a great facility. It was packed the day I was there, and also the groundbreaking for a luxury dog hotel facility in right across the street here. Whatever turns you on, I guess. But it's a great, going to be a very interesting facility. They were showing me around, and they pointed out there's the luxury suites, there's the exercise area. So they're going to be living it up soon there. Really just a great facility, great people. They actually made a donation to the Disaster Relief Fund of $500. Not even open yet, so really have to give them a shout out for that. While we're on the topic of donations, I want to commend Mr. Nelson here, whose firm stepped up and donated $20,000 to the Disaster Relief Fund. So they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for that, and it's going to be put to good use. The fund is now almost a little under $200,000, and we are busily trying to organize more fundraising efforts, a concert and a comedy night, and several things that we have in the works to hope to beef that up a little bit. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you spread it out on all the folks who are affected, it's really not a lot. So we're really going to be very aggressive with trying to do what we can to help folks out and fill in some of the gaps that are left between the flood insurance companies and FEMA and all the other organizations. And finally, I'll say the Lions Breakfast, they do a great job. This is the second year in a row they've had it at Applebee's. They used to have it at VFW. And it was a great turnout. There were people streaming in as I was leaving towards the end. So, and they're going to be dedicating all of that money to the Disaster Relief Fund. So they deserve. Lions always do a good job, whether it's having young people's eyes checked or fundraisers like this. They really do a great job and deserve a big debt of gratitude from us all. With that, I'm going to turn it over for the public portion. And before we get started with the public comments, I just want to remind everybody, please give your name and address, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes. We want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak, and if you need more time, we'd be glad to stay around afterwards to speak with you one-on-one, okay? Yes, sir.
I'm John Lewis from...
John, excuse me, just point the mic down so it picks up you. Yeah, just point it down so it picks up your voice. That's it, yeah.
Perfect. I'm John Lewis from 53 Hartshorn Road in Locust. I'm the president of the Hartshorn Woods Association that's located just to the east of Nederson. 3 weeks ago, I started hearing about concerns that the Nederson Library was being closed. And as you know, Middletown has all these smaller communities within it, and community of Hartshorn Woods is part of really the neighbors think, centered in neighbors think. That's the school, the library, the general store there. And this center, downtown neighbors think is one of Middletown's historic districts. And the library provides some of that historic character, some of the identity of this part of town, and some of the property value in this part of Middletown. I went before the library board on the 16th to convey these concerns about the closing. But afterwards I was told that we really had to address the Township Committee, so that's how come I'm here.
John, I just want to point out that,
Yeah.
that the library board makes the decision
Right.
to, do whatever with the branches. They have their own budget, they make their own budget decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make that clear. If they told you that, that's not accurate.
Yeah, well, this, after everybody said what they were saying and so on, it was like they wanted to kind of shift things to one side or something, and told us that we should bring our concerns here. That was the head of the library board that said this. That's really why I'm here, and probably others as well. One concern is that the public didn't find out about this until it was practically a done deal. So that was the feeling we got at the board meeting, that things were really set on rails and headed in that direction. So we didn't really have much confidence that enough time had been devoted to this that we could be sure that there isn't some way to save that branch library, the Neighborsing Library.
Mr. Lewis, just if I may, that decision was sprung upon the Township Committee just as quickly.
Yeah.
It was something that I attended the December meeting of the library board in lieu of my designee, and I served as mayor last year. And that decision came out when the director proposed her budget for 2013, and she made that proposal in December, okay, for the 2013 budget. So it's unfortunate that the word didn't get out, and I can't tell you why they didn't get it out any faster, but that was a decision that, based on the budget prepared, just from my perspective at that meeting in December, based on the budget prepared by the director, it was the director's recommendation to not use the surplus money, to which they have over $400,000 this year, to continue to fund the libraries based on, the branch libraries based on usage and based on potential continued decline in their funding based on valuation of the town post the storm. I can't tell you, neither can this board, how many librarians are needed in the main branch, okay? All I can tell you is that the director gave me the information that 6% of the branch usage came out of, I believe it was Lincroft, 3% out of Navesink, and 2% out of Bayshore. These were her numbers, not mine. And that it was her recommendation, running her budget, as the mayor said, to make this decision. From my perspective, and look, I'll leave you with this, we don't control their budget process, okay? If you see this, there's been a lot of misfacts and misinformation out there, and the township finally put a statement of fact, which you may have a copy of, that we made a couple copies here. But at the end of the day, when it really comes down to it, I can't tell you if they need 10 librarians in main branch. I can't tell you if they need 100. It's not my expertise. It's the director's. But what her recommendation is that she doesn't want to hurt the main branch. Now, I can't tell you if she allocated other resources that it's going to hurt it or not. But that's a library board decision. And to be told to come here was bad guidance by the president of the library.
we found out afterwards, more or less, or got the impression that the cost-benefit ratio at Navissing is actually somewhat more favorable than it is.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Even at the main library.
John, we have
Yeah.
to move on. Okay, we have to move on.
Yeah, well, I had to devote some time to,
Okay, but that's within the 5 minutes.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so we could say and go over this further if you want after the meeting.
Okay, can I just finish this one last paragraph or so, that somehow the main library is untouchable? I got that impression at that library meeting. I don't understand why they couldn't scale back both the way they did in Red Bank, and maybe be able to save the library.
That's a question that the library board should be asked.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you, John. Anybody else care to speak? Seeing no further. Oh.
My name is Ted Kenny. I'm at 34 Red Road, Middletown. I moved out here from Jersey City in 1975, and I did so because I liked what I saw, and I wanted Middletown to be the place where I was going to bring up my family. And I did. I had 2 boys. They utilized the school, utilized the library, been here in court a couple times as well. But in all, I watched the politics, I watched what's going on. Whenever the school board had problems, this board would say they have to get themselves straightened out. We always found ways, and you put it down to the voters. And I approved. I mean, I voted for a lot of things that I didn't like my tax rate going up the way it has since I moved down here in '75. I venture to say it was a quarter of what I'm paying now. But I voted for these things because the same reason why you probably did as well. For your family, for the township, and wanting to keep things the way they are because that's why we're here. We choose to be here and we pay to be here because we like it and we want it to stay the same. And when I heard that the libraries were closing, I was a little upset with it. And I asked at the branch, the Bayshore branch, what's going on? She said, well, I really don't know. I understand they're going to close 2 branches and now this thing in Lindgrove one, but that the Bayshore might stay open. And then I heard that perhaps there's a school coming in down in Croydon area and they're going to move some of the workers from Middletown out and put them in Bayshore. I don't know if it's rumor or what it is, so then Bayshore got added to the list.
No, I think her recommendation was all 3 at December meeting. It was not 2 of the 3.
Right, they didn't want to have to make the decision of one staying open.
I'm here to ask you. I know, like what you said, and just to the gentleman before, and that pamphlet was going on, that Middletown Library has to operate within its budget. In the same way the school board is supposed to operate within its budget, then you guys have to operate within yours. And I know with the same going on and property values that have been sinking over the past several years, are starting to turn around a little bit now, but I don't know if we're going to be able to make it without more tax increases or whatever else. But there is something that's got to get done. I don't know if it is politics, if it's a battle between you guys and the board, but on the library board, but it's got to get straightened out. I mean, we need those branches. We need the Middletown Library the way it is. It's very helpful. I know we got to make sacrifices, and at times we don't like change and we have to give up. But we don't have to get up without a fight. And I'm asking you, your collective board, to find a way. And if it's the board down the library who's screwing up, tell them. It's hurting our town, and we don't want it to be hurt. We want those branches.
You know what, I mean, I understand how you feel about it. In fact, I said this at the last meeting. I'm a guy who owes his whole academic and professional career to the library, so I understand the importance of them, but there also is a reality, and we have a library board that is trying to live within its means. And in doing so, they have to take the recommendation of the director. Now, this is something that you may want to relate to the library board, you know, because we, in a perfect world where we could wave a magic wand, sure, we would like to see them stay open. But the library board, I believe, is trying to live within its means, which is shrinking by year. Now, you just mentioned that things are getting better. They're not going to get better. In fact, they're going to get worse for the next couple of years. Now, with the bayshore suffering so much damage, those property values are going to decrease, and that's going to mean a drop in revenue, which means the library revenue is going to decrease. So this is something that's looming, and they have to make some tough decisions. But you may want to relay this message directly to the library board.
We got hit bad, no question about it. Union Beach got hit worse as far as I can live. But they want to rebuild. They want to do what we go. We got to get the same spirit.
Absolutely.
I think the difference is, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. And from my perspective on the committee, I don't want to see these branches closed, okay? It's none of us do. I think we've said this all publicly. The issue that we face, aside from the massive cleanups which are going to impact valuations, is, you know, they have their own budget. They have a $3.4 million budget. It's a large budget. Now again, none of us are in the position, unless one of my committee members would be, to tell you how they can allocate their resources in terms of staff between those three libraries. Right, but the issue is, we don't have any more money that we can give to even offset their operation, even if we want it. Because what's different now that wasn't there today, wasn't there 5 years ago, is a 2% cap that we cannot exceed. The library would not be a special exemption to do it. So I'm with you. I mean, love to see, and I think we all would love to see them do it. But the issue is, it's their decision, and they have to make a decision as fiduciaries of the library as to where is most of the usage, where is most of the bang for their buck in terms of what they provide the residents of Middletown for $3.4 million. And to be honest, I haven't been to it, I'm not on that board. I can't tell you what the right answer is and what the wrong answer is. And none of us have that even legal authority to do that. But it is a challenge, and it's something that, they're looking at this recommendation, and sure, we can put our heads together. We put our heads together to get $50,000 off, to save them $50,000. I mean, there's only so much we can do in this board.
Is there any truth in that thing I told you about bayshore to be used as a office?
The administrator can comment on that, but there's been nothing that's been decided from the committee level. I mean,
we're going to have to move on, but I'll let Tony address that question, okay? Thank you very much.
Well, no, there's been no decision to use it for anything. We did do a walkthrough. That's the only library building we actually own. So we did do a walkthrough to see if it was suitable for the usage should the library close. That issue is not driving a decision to close the library now. It's nothing to do with it. If it were to close and became available, then I'd want to look at whether or not it would be used for something else useful to the community.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Peggy Spitucci. I live in Formont. Sorry. It has mitigation. I'm very upset with this. I was approved at the ICC, which is $30,000. I cannot afford to have a pay my house, which is mandatory. $30,000 will not cover. That'll only cover living in the house, not to put the electric back and put it back to where it should be. If I don't raise it, my flood insurance is going to be outrageously high. I don't know what to do. I'd like to know where can I get additional money to put my house back. I don't want to move. I love my neighborhood. I'm upset too because our library is leaving us. That's part of our community. But I'm not here to talk about the library. I'm here to talk about what can this. You talk about disaster relief. What can I be eligible
the disaster relief fund, look, you can be eligible for it, but, honestly, it's going to be supplemental. I mean, the goal and mission statement of that fund is to help, with replacing contents on the rebuild, not necessarily, money for rebuild, because we knew we'd never raise enough money. You'd have to raise millions upon millions to do that. So yeah, you will be able to for something that's not covered or that,
What would I do then if I do not have enough money between my insurance money and the ICC money? That is not enough money because I have an estimate from a contractor. Just to put the house together is $150,000. It's $36,000 just to lift the house. It's $6,500 to put back the electrical. I'm a senior. I live on a limited income here. What do I do? Is hazard mitigation, do I wait 2 years for hazard mitigation to decide? My taxes, are they gonna go up? My insurance, flood insurance is due, it's up next month. Are they gonna raise it outrageously high than what I'm paying now? I don't know. I can't get the answers from FEMA, from the township. I mean, I don't know what to do. Do I sit for 2 years? I don't know.
Tony, I'm sorry. I want to turn it over to Tony in a second. Okay, after Committee said Marino, because he's in a similar situation.
Yes, I told him. I went to see him, and he was very helpful in giving me some information. But again, this is, my thinking is, this is not the first disaster in this.
The hazard mitigation, we have stipulations that are put on us. So it's not that we don't want to give it to you. There are stipulations by FEMA in the state. That's what I asked that question.
Part of this, plan. Are you going to give the generators to the school, or are you going to help the homeowners? If I don't get any help, what do I do? Do I leave my home? Do I go walking down 36 with my suitcase in my hand? What do I do? Where do I get extra money? I don't know. Do I wait 2 years? Are you going to stop my taxes for 2 years until I get some money? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not getting it. I don't know. I can't get any answers. I'm frustrated. I can't live in my house. I'm there temporarily. I'm trying to get it where I can at least live in it comfortably without having all of the standards that the township or FEMA wants. So I'm walking on subfloors.
Well, I just want to point out one thing. When you say township standards, we're beholden to what the state and the feds and all those, so we're just the folks on the ground who have to carry it out, unfortunately.
These are the issues that not only me, but a lot of homeowners are facing. When this happened, nobody came around and said, you have to do this, you have to do that. I know there are people that are just redoing their home.
The federal response has been abysmal, in my view. In my view, the federal response has done nothing to help them get.
Absolutely, and I agree with you.
But they're the ones calling the shots, unfortunately.
Yeah, and if that was me, if they have all of these relief funds, all of the donations and everything, where are they going? They're not really helping the individual homeowners. That's what I see.
Were you able to take a look at the SBA or the federal loan program to bridge that?
I did that already. They denied me because of my debt to credit.
Okay.
I'm a senior citizen. I live on this. The other
thing to keep in mind, I'm sure you're aware, is that your improvement or your taxes have been reduced or will be reduced based on the reduction in improved value on the property. I'm sure that you know.
I've already went to the tax place, and yes, I'm on this list, but when are they going to do that? But my taxes are due. I don't see any reduction.
That affects the third and fourth quarter.
There will be a small reduction in the second quarter billing, but the real reduction you're going to see is in the third and fourth, so the last two is where you might get the difference for the year. They just finished the book on Friday, I think, so it was too late for this quarter to get all that information. So the first time you're going to see any relief will be in May. The May bill will be reduced, but I'm not sure. I think we're going to try to get letters out, but some people don't live there in their houses, so they're going to have to come in and find out what their new bill is for that quarter. And then again in July or August, when the new bills go out for the years, they'll be adjusted again.
Can I get my name on this letter of intent?
I think I spoke with you, and I think I've added you.
I don't think I spoke to you.
Man, if you can stay after.
Jason, I would just wait till the meeting's over in a few minutes, and Jason will be
Okay.
But I'm really concerned because I'm not the only one in this situation. What do I do? And I must say, I compliment Middletown with their website, that they are giving us a lot of information on there. I just wish they had a liaison somewhere to answer the kind of questions I just would like to do. Thank you.
Thank you. If it's any consolation, we can't get answers from them a lot of times either, you know, and we can, you know, usually get through to them. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Eric Rosenberg, the Lincroft section. I just wanted to add my support to the previous comments about keeping the branch libraries open. And I read the material that you put out, and I understand that the library makes their own independent financial decisions. And I know I, for one, will try to make the next board meeting of the library and indicate the lack of transparency and the suddenness with which these decisions seems to have been foisted upon all of us that use the branch libraries. And I think that two previous speakers spoke very eloquently about how much these branch libraries do contribute to the character and to the students and to the senior citizens that use all of these local branches, and that go, I believe, a great deal towards making Middletown the town that's envied and lauded the way it has been for so many years. I did see that the township is going to be contributing something towards the parking lot expansion of Middletown. So maybe even that modest amount could possibly be diverted to help keep the branch libraries open. One of the things that does concern me is that I'm sure you all know what the traffic is on 35, and imagine on the weekends having to find the time to drive from Lincroft or from Port Monmouth or Navesink or up 35 to the main branch and try to do that, and just the incredible inconvenience and time that would be spent for residents to use the main branch. So it really is, would be a horrible shame if they closed. And I know that you all feel the same way, and obviously your means are limited, but to whatever extent you can exert your political pressure on the library board, even though you don't legally control their actions, to whatever extent you can exert pressure on them, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Stacey Samuels, just in the Davidson Avenue in Davidson. And I just wanted to also give my support to our local branches. And I know your hands are tied, but I have to be honest, we had a very big crowd when we were in front of the board in the library, and I understand they have to run the meeting the way they do. There was a feel of smugness and arrogance, I have to be honest. You know, I know they don't reply like you reply when they don't come up to speak, but it was almost like they were surprised that we had such a big crowd there. They didn't really want to hear it, and their decision was made. I had a lot of problems with, obviously, the time frame that took place in this. We were not told, and you know, a backroom rumor came around that the board told Susan O'Neill not to talk.
I was at that meeting, I can just tell you that's not true.
Okay. You know, and again, that was just a rumor. But to let us know, to notify us with 2 weeks' notice that our branches were going, not to offer any kind of compromise. I mean, as a business decision, I don't get it. I think a decision this large should have been placed out to the public. We had a survey, we've had a nice reply on it, and which we can share or produce to the board of trustees. But I really have a feeling that the decision is made, it's done, they don't month or so scramble to come up with some solutions, and we have meetings, and interested, press is interested. You know, we want Middletown to be a big town with a little community. It's not going to happen when you close these branches. I mean, to be able to have the opportunity to have 3 buildings where you virtually have to pay no rent, so that people can come, and children, and seniors, to use the public library, and then you're taking it away from us. It's, we want to make it small. Why do we have to just vote me?
I will say one thing though. The best course of action for you is to go with a viable solution to the board that they would have to consider. Saying that the press is interested, that's not going to close the gap that they're facing, because even if they relented and kept these open for this year, then what happens next year when their revenues drop even further? Are they going to be digging a hole even deeper and just delaying the inevitable? So the best thing to do is to go with a viable alternative to closing them, and then they would be forced to listen. Because I understand how they feel. I try to put myself in their shoes when you're dealing with a fiduciary responsibility. That number is there, and you can't wish it away or talk it down off the ledge. It's there, and you can't do anything about it. It's very frustrating, and your heart wants to say yes, we want it, but the reality is you have numbers that you don't like.
The feeling as a patron is that everything's just all about the big main branch, and it's a one facility on there all the time. But it's like, well, why can't we all just take a little step back?
That's the directors, that's where we're not, that's where none of us are, myself would be the first thing. I'm not qualified to tell you how to run a library or, police department. We just make policy decisions, and it's her, at that meeting in December, which again took me by just as much surprise as you when she presented her budget and her findings to that board. It's her thought process. She came and said, this is how much it costs to run the branches. I'm not in a position to tell you what it costs to run those branches and how you can manipulate the system between Maine and otherwise. But I think the chief concern, as the mayor said, at least my concern from that meeting was, if they use all the surplus this year, and clearly they can use all the surplus this year to keep these branches open. I mean, that's over $400,000, despite the fact that they're sometimes led to believe that they have nothing. The question is, what happens next year if they use it all this year? If their budget goes from $3.4 million and the town's value drops because of the superstorm, which it will happen, and it goes to $3 million, now you're $200,000 in the hole, and you just lost the $400,000 that you had. Now you're closing main branch and the branches, and that's something I think that they're looking to avoid. To be fair to them, just based on that meeting that I attended in December. So it's a complicated issue, but it's a director making the recommendation, and she has her views.
Actually, as a patron, also and a taxpayer, say, well, gee, it's a lot of responsibility for one woman. I understand she's got her board of trustees that she has to answer to, and in essence, she kind of has to answer to the taxpayer. But why can't we all just compromise? And we do have some ideas, and we are meeting with them. But realistically, you're asking a group of, just local people, lay people, not library, people educated in library sciences, library business sciences, to scramble.
Ms. Samuels, I just would like to add to this, just for a bit of a global perspective. Unfortunately, this is happening all over the country. There was a 40% reduction in state aid 2 years ago. I know it's been steady for the last 2 years, but that's 40%. That's a tremendous amount of money. That's New Jersey alone. When you look at the prestigious organizations like the American Library Association or the NJLA, they're all confronted with this the shrinking allocations for libraries, and unfortunately, it's a problem that everybody's having. I mean, the Library of Congress, even a federal institution, has lost 10% of its workforce. So it's certainly very troubling, and it's unfortunate, but we understand that.
But if you also read in the paper, Red Bank recently had, similar problems. So instead of closing the doors, they reduced the hours.
But that's something that you may want to bring up to the library board.
Yeah.
We have to move on to the phone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Winchell. I'm a member of the committee trying to find a solution, and I think I have some of those ideas to present to you tonight. I'm at 196 Monmouth Avenue. I've been active in the community for 25 years and active at the Navesink Library for 23 years. I think that the issue isn't so much failure to understand the need for austerity. As a business person, I'm looking at this situation and I see a fairly new board, not necessarily equipped to deal with a budget presented in December. And as Mayor, as you said, to come up with suggestions is to presuppose an ability to understand their budget from an outsider's point of view, which we clearly haven't been given the opportunity to examine their budget. I think two things that are in some confusion. The allocation of a $300,000 to the branches is not necessarily an unfair allocation to those branches, given that the numbers that you quoted, 11% of the total activity, 300,000 represented roughly 10% of the total budget. We've come up with a proposal, or a preliminary proposal, to just reduce the hours of all three branches, because I think the reason why people are coming here tonight is to make sure that you understand that these are three satellite centers of the community. Middletown, being a very large and diverse township, has many centers. It has its Parks and Recreation is not one central location as it is in Manalapan or someplace like that. The libraries aren't centrally all located, and each of these branches is at least two of the branches are at least 5 miles away from the main branch. Bayshore is 2.5 miles. But they all serve different purposes in the community. At Navesink, it predominantly serves school-age children and seniors. So we don't have a lot of need for at nighttime hours because neither of those two groups walk to the library at night. Bayshore, on the other hand, has a lot of use at night. So what we're trying to do is to come up with a solution that would be one full-time librarian circulating, or one full-time personnel, it could be 3 different people, circulating to these branches under reduced hours with something like $100,000 of cost being allocated to the branches. To give it a chance to see whether you can still sustain 11% of the circulation on a reduced hours, because clearly each of the branch librarians have reported to us that not all of these hours are high turnover. For instance, the problem we have with Navesink, and both Jason and Mr. Mercandante might know, Mr. Greenspan might know, that the entire Navesink school parking lot, half of it depends on the Navesink Library's property to park on. So we don't have, and that school property, that school parking consumes the entire parking lot. There's no ability for anybody in a car to park at Navesink. So all of the circulation that happens at Navesink either happens by people going back and forth from school, or attending or walking there, which explains probably why we're 3% of the circulation. 1959, just a couple of facts. The Navesink Library was the original library in Navesink, in Middletown, and the branch library was a branch. The main branch was a branch of the Navesink Library formed in 1921. The Navesink Library was formed in 1917. 1959 started the relationship that we now have, where the township for $1 a year rented this building. So we're just trying to look for you guys. I think the real question, not guys, just meaning men, you have an ability to manage in austerity. That's what you're struggling with. And you do that through a hard investigative process of your own budget process. And what we're doing right now is we're relying on the director, who has a main facility with overlapping shifts, morning and night, essentially making a unilateral decision to close all 3 branches with no consultation with the community, no consultation with me as the landlord of the Navesink Library. And My specific instructions from Mrs. O'Neill, when she called me on December 29th when I was down in Florida, was that Mr. Nelson had asked not to publicize this. And so, thank you, Mr. Nelson of the library president. Sorry, Mr. Nelson.
Even I had to say it.
And so there was too little time. And so what we're trying to do is divide time and to look at a proposal which is maybe a third of the hours that we have now, to find out really how are these facilities used, how critical are they to the community. Because Bayshore right now is a big center for internet usage for people who don't.
Right, Mike, we're going to have to wrap up, but have you spoken to Mrs. O'Neill about this? Because these are things that you should lay out to her. She's the one making the recommendations.
All we're trying to do is to make sure that there's an open dialogue, not a point-to-point conversation that doesn't go to all other points. So we're asking for your engagement. We know you can't direct them to do it, but remember, this is a very new board, not equipped with the same skill set that you have to deal with an austerity budget presented to them with 1 month's notice, with no comment from the community. So that's all we're asking for.
Well, some of the board are new, there's some veterans on there, but they have a very competent attorney, and they have Mrs. O'Neill, who's been the director for...
And I've never seen an attorney do a budget in my entire life as a business
No,
person. So I'm just asking for you guys, maybe Mr. Mercadante, maybe somebody else can help do this process. I mean, there's a process by which you budget, so there's chargebacks and things like that.
The problem is, Mr. Woodchill, and I served as mayor, and I met 3 times with the staff of, with the township staff. These whole things, so you see chargebacks for the employee cost. I mean, they were met.
I'm not saying that at all.
I understand that, but my point is, when I was at that meeting in December, and I asked, because look, it came to my surprise to me also, and I asked the director, I said, look, if today you had $3.4 million to run and create a brand new library system in Middletown Township, and you had no facilities, this is on the record, you can look at the tape in December, I said, would you create a main library and 3 branch locations? Would you create 3 branch, what would you do? And what she said was, as director, I would not create branch libraries if I were building a library today. Now, again, she could be right, wrong, or indifferent, but she's the professional when it comes to that. I'm not defending her. Believe me, I'm the last person that's going to defend her. But at the end of the day, that's what the struggle is for that board.
No, I got that. I'll close by just saying, consider the fact that the branches are not just library branches, they're community centers, and that's what we're striving to maintain. It's a sense of community in a very large community.
Could they stay open without being libraries as community centers then? I mean, that's the question I would ask.
Like a reading room?
Well, there are difficulties in doing that, and as you know, would you give the keys to Johnson Gill Annex to a bunch of volunteers without proper vetting and all that? One of the things that we do get with the library are basically people covered under insurance and professionals.
And there's union issues too with that.
Absolutely. So
it gets a little complicated.
Exactly. So when you say for us to propose a solution, we are trying within the context that we have. We don't have obviously an ability to analyze a budget like I do in my businesses over 34 years of operation. I think that it sounds to me that the budget process, and the reason why there are new trustees, is that you're trying to also grapple with something that wasn't particularly clear to you over those prior years. So thank you very much for your time. I just wish you guys good luck.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Susan Weiss, 160 Bartram Road. First of all, I wanted to thank Mayor Fiore for everything you did during Sandy. It was admirable, extremely impressive. You kept everyone up to date every day. Thank you. My first question is anyone here from the library board tonight? Because I don't think so. We went to the library board a couple of weeks ago, and Mr. Mercatante was there. It was a big crowd, very emotional. I have concerns, and I don't want to belabor it, but Mayor Fiore was talking about the fiduciary duty. Mr. Senabrino, Commitment Senabrino, was on the committee, the board of trustees, at the time that this resolution giving $500,000 was passed, and 499,000, whatever. And I really feel that when I looked at that resolution and saw that that money was to be given, and it was given in March of 2011, by the members of this board, on the basis they were making the donation as part of being good citizens.
That's not necessarily why they mean.
Well, it was not, there was supposed to be no compromise in the needs to the library. Now, I know they had counsel represent them with respect to the decision, and I suppose it's as to the propriety of the decision, in my opinion. And I feel that giving up that money, and now, not even 2 years later, saying there isn't money for the branches to survive, I feel very disheartened by the whole thing. I think it was a bad move on the part of the trustees.
It was never their money in the first place. See, that's where, unless you really follow the history, and if you're trying to read notes on it, you'll never understand the history. The reason that money, it was one morning they wake up with a $500,000, $700,000 surplus. The next morning, because remember, that library is valued based on municipal valuation, correct?
Yes.
So we went through what was called a revaluation in 2009, which we didn't want to do, but the county forced it. So the value of the town goes up $2 billion overnight. The library winds up with an extra $500,000 that they didn't budget for, plan, or anything else. So in a time when all the tax appeals, we were going to do reassessment to bring the values aligned, because just like somebody passed out the letter here when I was mayor in 2011, with all the tax appeals, appeal your taxes. Well, guess what? That had a huge $5 million impact on the township. So that's where that all came through. And as part of that agreement, we decided to work with them also on the parking lot. So to say that they gave up money that they hard planned for is really a stretch at best.
Okay, I thought the money was supposed to be used for the parking lot.
Which, no. Ma'am, the other thing to keep in mind is that at that time, the library was running north of a 30% surplus at $1.1 million. And as Committeeman Fourie mentioned, that money was the result of an increased rateable base that the library had found that money and had no reason to use or had no plans for it. With regard to the agreement, one thing you have to understand is that there were several facets to that agreement. Of course, one was the parking lot improvements that were studied by the library. So it was a multifaceted agreement. Okay, but keep in mind, when I got on the committee, and I was then given a spot on the library board. That was my first year on the committee, first year on the library board. And the first thing that I read prior to taking office was the audit report, which showed a $1.1 million surplus of taxpayer dollars that the library was holding. And frankly, that was not okay with me. Neither the municipality nor the library, nor any government entity should function as a bank well in excess of 30%. And hold taxpayer dollars that could go towards reduction of tax.
Property tax. Okay. I don't want to belabor that at all. The one thing I am concerned about is Susan O'Neill. In the document that was passed out today, came over email this afternoon, the library facts. In the last paragraph, it talks about 6% raises and continued its overstaffing and excessive overtime. Now, who does she report to?
The board.
She reports to the board.
That's why there's a lot of new members there, because in past years we were not happy with the performance of those particular members, so we had to replace them as their terms were up.
Okay, and with respect to Susan O'Neill, we have to go to the board and convince them that she's inept with respect to budgeting. Is that what you're saying? Because
They oversee Susan O'Neill.
Okay. Has Vivian Green specifically, on the record, on the tape, during the course of the meeting, said you have to take concerns to the mayor and the township committee?
That's not true.
That's not correct.
That's the vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, just one last thing. I know my time is just about up. I wanted to just, I was thinking about what to say here, and I was walking down the street, and I saw the two lions guarding the New York Public Library. Patience and Fortitude are the names. And they were named, they were in place at the New York Public Library as of 1911, and Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia had renamed them Patience and Fortitude because he felt that New York was going to need that to survive the economic depression. And I think that we should consider that we need to guard our libraries, our branches, and our main library in this horrible time of economic depression. I mean, listening to this woman's story, I feel like, okay, well, the branches, compared to something like that, losing your home, etc., why am I worried about the branches? The reason I'm worried about the branches is because they are so key to our future, and it's important for working parents to know their kids to go to the library. The Lynbrook School doesn't even have a library inside the school. It's one of the women who spoke at the library committee meeting 2 weeks ago said that with all the devastation in the Bayshore area, God saved the Bayshore Library, the Fort Monmouth Library. And now this Board of Trustees is planning to take it away. It's very depressing, and I hope that you will be able to exert any kind of influence, because the fact that none of them are here today, when I believe they knew that it was going to be this, it was going to be a topic of discussion, to me speaks volumes about their interests. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we can exert influence, but without a solution to where the funding is going to come from, it's not going to do any good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Melanie Elmer. I live on Greenfield Terrace in Lynbrook. I just wanted to clarify just a few facts. Mr. Fiore, I do get upset by you saying that in December it came as a surprise to you that the branches were closing, because I was here in this room in November and I reported to this board that they were closing the branches.
You're now a library board member?
I was at the board meeting.
They told
and
you
they
to come to us?
They spoke about it openly, and because your liaison was not there, I didn't think that you would have gotten the memo, so I came here to tell you, and I was berated by you and bullied by you at that meeting.
It was still a surprise to me, ma'am.
Well, you had a month to get over that surprise, because I told you.
I didn't have a storm to deal with, did I? Okay.
Okay. Second thing is, I have a question for either Mr. Trisente or Mr. Mercatante. This library fact sheet says that the bond debt is $650,000, but at the December meeting that Mr. Fiore was at, he said that the bond debt was $560,000. Is it, which one is it?
It's not going to be the same every single year.
What was it this year, last year?
Recently, it was 648, was it?
So I was low.
Yeah,
This year was 648? Okay, so I wanted to check that. And then I really have an issue with this library parking lot expansion, because that was part of the deal with the transfer of the money. That was part of that agreement that was signed. And from everything I've read, every document on the Middletown Library website, it says that that money that was earmarked for that library parking lot expansion was from fines and copier fees that was restricted, and they had to unrestrict the money in order to transfer the $499,000 to the township back in 2011. So to me, as a taxpayer, I'm saying the library would have paid for this on their own through money that they had set aside, but now I'm going to have to pay for it out of the municipal budget, because Mr. Fiore said in December that
It's our building.
you had said in December that it's probably going to cost you about $97,000 to do the parking lot, and then you probably wouldn't have the bond for it.
It's our building, it's our building, it's our parking lot, that's my position.
Right.
And depending on how we do our capital project, We may or may not have the bond.
Right, but there was something in that resolution for the transfer, that was something
Because
that's on the radar.
Because they
And then you
encumbered
said
the
that-
money, that's why, and they had to unencumber it. That was their little shell game under the former president.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Prior to Mr. Sedembrino coming on library board and meddling with the budget, quite frankly, the library always lived within their appropriation. So whatever they paid their employees, whatever they paid for materials, they never came to you and asked for huge sums of money to help them out.
And you understand when the budget got adopted, when I came on the board in January? Can you tell me when the budget got adopted that year?
I don't understand what you're
Well,
asking.
you mentioned, I take offense to this greatly, you mentioned that I meddled with the budget. Now, one thing,
They always lived on their own. Never bothered you.
Ma'am, one thing that I said before I sat on this committee, before I sat on that board, was that the library board had $1.1 million or 30% of taxpayer funds.
Right. Imagine if you took that. Imagine if you took that. Because that's what you asked for. You said, give us $1.2 million. Then it was reduced to $898,000. It settled on $499. Now imagine if you got what you asked for. Imagine that.
Are you done?
I'm not done because I want you to speak. I just want one more question.
Go ahead and then
you can follow up on the end because I have 2 minutes left. Mr. Crescente or Mr. Mercantante, prior to the June 12th chargeback letter, did the township give the library a bill of charges to account for the detail of the amount that you were deducting from the appropriation, or was the library just billed for like a flat figure? Like, is that something that I can get an Oprah request for, like to find out all the detail of those amounts? Because I know what the sums are. In 2009, it was $1,025,000. In 2010, it was the same exact amount. And then in 2011, it was $997,000. Then it went up to the 1.3. So I guess what I'm asking for you is if you came up with this number, like, is there some kind of record that shows exactly what they were paying for? Because I would think if they were really good guardians of that money, they would ask you for that and you would be able to provide that. And I should be able to get a copy of that.
Melanie, why are you so bent on being convinced that we're trying to hurt the library? Why do you
have the ability?
No,
Answer our
why do
question.
you think we're trying to hurt the library? Why would we want to do that?
I'm not it's about money. It's about money.
But Bill, why would you're almost trying to say, I think I hear it behind your words, that you're accusing us of improperly taking money.
I'm accusing you of padding the municipal budget with library appropriation dollars because, and I'll tell you why this is important to me.
Melanie, we're
because if
way
it
over
goes to
5
the
minutes.
county, that money is going to come back to the municipal budget. Because that's where this, I'm telling you,
You're telling me how I'm going to vote on a county issue now?
I'm not
Seriously?
I'm not telling you.
Melanie, we're way over the 5 minutes.
All right, well,
And there's other
I'm glad
folks who
that-
want to speak.
I'm glad that the money you asked for previously, we would be in much worse shape, and that's scary.
Mayor, I'm going to clarify one item. There was a lot of facts that were commingled that were mentioned here. One thing I want one thing clear with regard to the parking lot. You mentioned facts that were tied to the improvement of the parking lot. There was nothing in the agreement, and I'm sure you have a copy of the agreement, that was specific with regard to the dollars being allocated to the parking lot. In fact, if you read the agreement, it specifically says that the cost for the parking lot improvement would, although it would be in our capital plan, whether that be in 2011 or 2012 or 2013, it would be in our capital plan. It did say that the library would pay those funds. Now, the township has taken a position that it is our building, and it is our property, and we will put that in our capital plan, and we will fund that. So if you go look at that, if you go look at the agreement, okay, you will find exactly.
I know we promised that, and we will get to it.
So my point is, when you talk about this committee not helping the library, the fact that when you look at that agreement, it says that the library is going to fund that improvement, the committee's taken a position that we're going to fund the improvement, okay? So don't stand here and tell us that we're not doing anything to help the library to move things forward. At the end of the day, it's about the dollars. And we want to make sure the dollars need to work not only for the library, but for the entire township. And that's important to us all.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would care to speak? Yes, sir?
Good evening, my name is Don Watson from 1 Collinson Drive. I just got a couple questions here. Have we decided where we're going to relocate the apartments that are in the building we're going to lease out to Trinity School yet?
No, we haven't.
Do you know when you're going to make that decision? Going to wait till you close on it? Don't know when you're going to make that decision.
I don't know at this point now.
Okay. Also, some of the homeowners down in the Port Monmouth area were told that the debris collection was going to continue down there. And I noticed that there's piles of construction debris in front of lots of people's houses down there. Is that going to be picked up?
No one's been told that debris collection is going to continue because the debris collection ended December 3rd. And everyone was notified of that. And there's not going to be a further...
Homeowners have been notified that the township was going to continue to pick it up.
Not by the township.
So you're not going to pick that up?
Where's the notification?
Where? Well,
Website? Was a website letter?
No, it wasn't a website.
No, we specifically announced it was ending December 3rd, that we know further.
Yeah, I remember reading that, but then forget it, whether it was December or January, somebody that lived down there was told that it was going to stop.
I believe me, I've heard every rumor imaginable in the past few weeks, so that's not true.
So the confusion may have been when they asked for bulk collection. Bulk collection continues on the day that you have your bulk collection.
I know people that live down there that don't even get their garbage picked up regularly.
Maybe that's what they're talking about.
No, they were talking about construction debris. Never the case, Mr. Fury.
Never the case, Mr. Watson.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Mr. Mayor, I have one comment for Mr. Watson. He's turning right now.
Go for it, man.
I want to thank you for coming to the Lions Club pancake breakfast.
Oh, it was great. It was a little dry, but we had a good time.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is there? Yes, Leo?
Speak something you missed.
Where's Santiago?
Good evening, Leo Gustavo, 121 Cranberry Court, River Plaza. I don't use the Colts Neck Library, which is the nearest library to me because its materials are inadequate to my needs. I go to the member library called the Tin Falls Member Library of the county, which is Tin Falls, and I do go to the Middletown Ship Library because it's got the kind of materials I like to access and borrow. So the the satellite branches are not personally important to me, may be important to others, but that's the nature of politics. There are focus groups and always particular and small group special interests that you have to deal with. Your responses were so good that it eliminated a lot of my questions, so I can streamline this. How many years long-term does the township have to pay on the debt service of any costs related to the old and the renovated libraries? How many years?
10 more years.
10 more years, and what we...
Only on the main building.
So could I just say there's somewhere between $5.5 million that has to be paid on that in the way of debt service? Is that 5.5? Is it 8.5?
Well, it's about just under 5 million.
So there's a $5 million debt service due on the property at the Middle Township Library.
Right, and Leo, that's on top of the appropriation each year to the library.
They don't have to fund that. Got into the long term, another question, maybe hopefully my last. And I get the sense that the township committee has effectually subsidized, inadvertently, but effectually subsidized the Middletown Ship Library and the 3 branches because of a lack of the under amount of chargebacks that should have been charged back in, say, 2011, 2010, 29, 28, and coming forward, what is the amount of the chargeback that we did not get back from the library during those years, not counting 2012?
It's quite significant. In fact, you would have to tally up against the pension payments that we made over the years and various other chargebacks, but it would be...
It depends on the health insurance we self-insure, so anywhere from 250,000 ballpark to 300 and
a year,
whatever it was per year.
Yeah. So that's up to $1 million.
Depends on the year.
Over
5 years.
Up to 5 years. So if the library was not thus subsidized in the last 4 or 5 years, they would have had a budget which would be about where they are now anyway.
Correct.
Okay? So we're just getting back to where things rightly belong. Okay? I'd like to add as a focus group and a special interest person, I'm retired on fixed income. My passive investments income has been reduced mightily because of this collapsing economy. So I'm personally affected. I'm not actively earning money by working in the workforce. I have 7 grandchildren. I have 4 living children, and I have to contribute to their financial problems. I have to subsidize, in the analogous sense that government subsidize. I have to subsidize my 7 grandchildren, my 4 children, so there's always a cost. Susan O'Neill, the director of the library, was wrong when she says in the newspaper, quoted in the Mama's Journal, my last comment, that it's about the money. Wrong. It's all about the money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo. Is there anybody else who can? Yes, ma'am.
I'm 67 Main Street, Fort Monmouth. And as you know, Fort Monmouth is in very good shape. And many of the people go in, fact, just today, someone was making copies because of her insurance. She has no computer, I asked her, she could maybe fill out a survey, and she took hard copies because I printed up hard copies. And if we lose that library, we lose the ability to communicate with FEMA. This is what these people are doing. Other than that, before the storm, they used it for their homework, the children used it for their homework, people used it to get jobs because the economy's bad, a lot of people are out of work. So, they really depended on it. And now to see, that's being taken away, I'd like to know that if this happens, and it closes, and you own the building, and maybe you want to, I don't know about upstairs, there's another level floor to it. Maybe you could leave the computers there and make it a community center just for them, because they're still going to need this help. It's not just, maybe next year, maybe the year after, who knows when.
Well, there's been no decision by the administrator.
Well, I heard reports about, rumors go around, and a lot of them are true.
Realistically speaking, if we were to take, or the administrator were to recommend moving employees into that building, that is something that I would clearly support, leaving computers or whatever the case may be. And it would actually, if that were to happen, let's think about this realistically, the hours would actually be increased, because I bet our employees would be there more than the branch would be open.
Yeah, you could put some money into it, even if you needed to take it out of one of your, saving funds or whatever, because basically this is really what it's going to be used for. These people that lost everything, to help them out. And if they could, maybe you could do something on the second floor if that's where you want to put the Board of Health. I heard they were trying to put 3 departments in there. So whoever the leak is, you're...
I wouldn't listen to anything you hear.
But this is what I heard, that they have the 3. But, you can still leave that section down there and enable the people to come in and use it. And, you know, if you're already going to have township employees in the building, then I don't think there would be an issue with the library.
I would support that.
This has already been discussed, and if we do decide to use it in any way, we'll keep a portion of the building
Well, if
available.
you want to take that building and put them in some building down by the fire department, or, you know, Fort Clement, I don't even know if that has anything to do with
Those buildings, keep in mind that those buildings are in the flood zone. This building didn't flood for a reason, because it's not in the flood zone.
Right.
So we would continue to utilize that building, we would make computer terminals available for the public, no matter what we decide to use the building for.
Okay, because I mean, they really need it, and that's where it's going.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who would care to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Linda Bound, 19 May Court. And a few comments, some related to the agenda and a couple comments related to the library issues. Regarding the bond debt, and I recall back in 2011 when some numbers were first presented on that, at least to me, it was around the total original principal that was issued for that was $7 million or just under. And now you're saying that after almost 12 years, there is $5 million of the balance remaining. That's an awful lot after all this time, and that indicates to me that very little money was paid down in the early years, that much of the principal repayment was deferred. Now I know you've refinanced this loan, I believe, or refunded, as you said, and that initially, Mr. Mercantoni had mentioned that that was a pyramid-shaped loan. I mean, I'm getting into too much detail here, but it's just an awful lot was deferred. Those payments should not nearly be that high. You know, the loan went up initially and then went down, and the high payment in the middle years 2 years ago was $540, was the number mentioned here. It should be way lower than that now. Enough on that. Regarding the library surplus, you know, there's been a lot of talk about they had all of these reserves. Well, libraries require reserves, and a substantial amount of reserves, in fact. And one of the reasons for that is because, as you've already mentioned, their revenue goes down. It increases, but it also goes down, it fluctuates. And it is for that reason, because they cannot raise their revenue, that they do require reserves to allow for steady budgeting. And in fact, the law allows them to keep 20% of their budget as reserves, and that's not including amounts that are restricted for purposes like capital projects. So the law allows it, knowing that their revenue fluctuates, and so the last thing we want to do is wipe out their reserves as if they don't need them. So that's my comment on that.
Which they're carrying, what, 400,000 in this budget?
Which is not nearly enough. Okay, but just obviously because of what's happening
12%
now.
of the budget? What do we carry now? 10, 5, 6?
The township can also increase their revenue. It is a very different situation, different animal. All right, can I have two other really quick comments, and before I run out of time, regarding two things. One thing that was on the agenda for tonight. This is Resolution 1379, which was?
The library also has a $3.8 million budget, and they only take in 3.4.
Well, I can't comment on the current budget, but they do get money.
They also get a little state aid, but not
They get a
enough to
little bit
fill
of
that
state
gap.
aid, that's down, they get a little bit of money from fines and revenues, okay. Different situation. All right, just regarding this resolution, I had a couple comments about it. One, this is entitled Resolution for Temporary Emergency Appropriation, and on the second page of this, it lists a number of charges. One of them, there's a $2,000 charge or expense for maintenance of tax maps. Do you know specifically which property or properties this refers to?
That's not really specific, all. It's for maintenance of all the taxes.
Okay, is that a regular monthly expense?
That's not what
Or
This is just, the payment came due, and we got to put money in that one. These are not individual expenses. This is just money that we need over the next couple of months.
Okay. All right. And my other question is also related to that, the same resolution, which mentions, in the third paragraph where certain monies are now. And it mentions 1.09 million in swim club utility. And my question is regarding the swim club utility. Do you happen to know what the time frame is for dissolving that utility, or will that be affected by ongoing debt payments, or the debt that I think you still have to pay from the utility?
There's actually, we can dissolve it at any time this year. There's no benefit or penalty for not.
There's nothing that precludes it by having the
we had to keep it open this year because we had to pay off complete debt, which we did. And that's why you saw that number in the budget. But that's gone, and there's no money in the utility. It's zero balance. So whenever we decide to dissolve it, we can dissolve it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any others who would like to speak? Okay, seeing no further members of the public come forward, we will close the public portion, and I have just one comment before we go. I just want to close the public portion, okay? Okay. I just want to say one thing, and I understand everybody's emotion with the library. We all have kids up here. Every one of us, my kids spend more time in the library than they do at home a lot of times, when they were younger anyway. And it's very important to us too. Having said that, we have a charge up here to operate the town in a financially sound way. And by doing that, we get to appoint the members to the library board who have a very significant fiduciary responsibility. That department, with its funding of $3.4 million, is one of the biggest departments in the entire township, not near the police, but certainly around what DPW is. So that's an enormous amount of money, $3.4 million. There were years when they gave 6% raises out to their employees. That's unheard of. How many people have gotten a raise here in the last 5 years? No less than 6% one. That's outrageous. And we've been making the pension payments all these years. We found receipts for first-class plane tickets charged to the library. Receipts for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. So you wonder why we're keeping a tight rein on this? You should all be shocked and outraged, because that's the kind of stuff that results in where we sit today. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Move for adjournment.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Zimmerino?
Yes.
Mayor Sharpberger?
Yes.
Motion carries